was your school experience?
Goofy. It was fucking goofy.
The caption said, no interest left. Well, now I have to come up with it on my own. And what do I like? Who am I? Like,
literally, like, that whole, like, crisis. Like, I went to art school and I came out with identity crisis.
Yes.
That's what I got.
I just mentally could not keep up.
I'm just having to recall, my trauma that was college.
Growing up, you were told constantly you need to go to college to get farther in life, but it seems like us older Gen Zs are learning the hard way that that's just not the case. Many of us have struggled to finish school only to end up in jobs that we could have had without having loans to pay. For art school in particular, it seems like burnout is extremely prevalent. We sat through the same core classes as our peers, along with additional fundamental core classes just for art that were setting us up for success in the art school. We programmed our brains to make work that would impress our professors and quickly. And then we graduate and we not only have to find a source of income, but we lack the structured studio space that we had gotten so accustomed to. In this video, I will use the experience of online artists, myself, and my friends to illustrate the loss of creativity many of us experience in this age of social media. Before we get any farther, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Ellie and I am an artist. I'm also going to take a second to introduce my dogs. This is Maya. And this is Missy. Say hi, Missy. They're going to interrupt me, so I hope you don't mind. Hi, this is Editing Ellie here. I wanted to do a quick little interjection. An idea I had for this video was to have speed paints going on the side just to make it a little more interesting to watch. But because I've never done a video this long before, I severely miscalculated how many I was going to end up having to use. So this has weirdly become a gallery of my art. I just wanted to say it's in no means to show off, it's just to give you something to look at. And I tried to include if they're also in some other videos that are on my YouTube, and most of them except for some at the end should be on my other socials as well if you're interested in more information or just a better look. And let's get back to the video. Back to me. I graduated with my Bachelor's of Fine Arts back in 2021. And 3 years later, I feel like I'm just now getting my spark back. I never would have returned to this point if I didn't take a step back to start to see art as not a job, which is something that school and social media had accidentally taught. If today's topic seems interesting to you, please leave a like, maybe even subscribe. I am hoping to make more videos like this soon and would just love to hear if people like it. I also have all the social media that's listed on the screen here. I'm going to be under either Artie Ray or Artie Ray Art, depending on what you're on. If you're interested in seeing other art or shenanigans that I get myself into. The thing that inspired this video was a TikTok by Sorry. They posted clips of their sketchbook before and after school and showed just the major difference between them, and the caption said, no interest left. When I pulled the account back up, both while writing the script and just double checking a couple days ago, it seems that's the only video they've posted this year. Everything else was back from 2023. There might have been sooner, but I saw a lot from 2023. This just really struck a chord with me because I felt that I had been fighting to feel creative again in the exact same way since I graduated 3 years ago. I even put a cheesy little comment on the video just trying to show that they weren't alone in this. I started drawing back in high school, which back then I thought was a late start. And although I didn't enroll in any art classes at the time, I took it very seriously. I took a sketchbook everywhere, drew every chance that I had, and even started posting content online. I did a lot of YouTube videos late high school, early college, which are now all unlisted, but show how much dedication and motivation, inspiration, how many other big optimistic words can I think of. I had so much creativity to do all of these things. And then college and adulthood came into play. Since I turned 18, I have kept myself booked in one way or another. I started in 2017 during my first semester working part-time while also going to school full-time, which eventually developed into me working full-time and going to school full time. And then after I graduated, I eventually was able to transition into a big girl 9-to-5 job. But I never worked anywhere related to my passion for art. It was all stuff that I was just lucky to fall into. And even when I was in school, I rarely got the chance to pick my own projects. Even senior year, when you do get that opportunity, I felt this overwhelming pressure to pick something that my professors would like, something meaningful, something out there. I just didn't feel like that clicked with myself. I'm creative and artistic in a much more narrative and storytelling way than I am in the traditional fine art way. And those two can coexist, and storytelling can be made into fine art, but I didn't know how to do that. It didn't seem like I could with the time and resources that were given to me. As a result of all this, I didn't feel like I had any connection to any of my work at that point in time that could be just my original stuff. I did lots of fan art, but even then that isn't the most personal connection. It's personal, but it's different. This rush to create art quickly continued after graduation for me as I put all of myself that I could into social media. I just wanted to find the audience that I needed to chase my dreams, and I knew that posting constantly was the way to do that. Now, I actually do enjoy making content. It's a dream, but it does take a lot longer to create content than you think as a consumer. Create good content than you think as a consumer. I feel confident saying that because as a consumer, I didn't realize how hard it was. And I always rushed and half-assed things as a teenager. So you can tell me that you disagree and that's fine, but I didn't know as a consumer. When you're watching a YouTube video or a TikTok, you finish in minutes or seconds, if you even finish at all. And that same content took the creator hours you may not have if you work full-time to live. Because of this, I felt like I was constantly moving too slowly and trying and rushing to catch up to everyone else and comparing myself just to everybody. I just felt like everyone had more followers, more consistent uploads, better posts, all these things. There were many times that when I look back now, if I had just kept posting, I could have grown a consistent following, but I just mentally could not keep up. And I just needed a break, and another break, and another break, and another break. And eventually, after my breaks, I would feel better and start from scratch. I do know it's not completely from scratch. There's some people that have followed me through breaks, and I love you if you're watching this. All of this also reminds me of the YouTubers who have admitted to burning out over the years. All of our favorite powerhouses are still human and broke down under the pressure. If those who have already just gotten so big like Jacksepticeye aren't immune to this, how are us that are just starting out supposed to handle anything of this, any part of this? Unlike the big guns, when you take a break, we feel it in our engagement. YouTube has slowly changed towards longer form content, which I think has helped because if they're taking a break, they're obviously working on something great. But I've seen so many videos that are advising you to post on TikTok 7 times a day. Okay, I may have slightly exaggerated there, but I knew I had seen the number 7 somewhere before, and one TikTok search made me found this video that's playing. So maybe I'm not, maybe I am, I don't know. Didn't want to mislead though. And that can't be healthy. That is not something that I think we should be pushing to just people who are dreaming of gaining a following, of a group of probably a lot of kids, at least young people. Now, I know what comments on this video are going to say. They're going to say you go to art school to network, that they miss having critiques when they were in school. Or lastly, that we're the ones who chose this risky major and career path in the first place. The first two, I can understand. I can even say you're right. Art school is for networking. There's just a few problems with this in reality. Firstly, I will admit, I am an introvert. There were many times that I was just not talking to the people in my classes. I was too shy. I will take full responsibility for not taking full advantage of opportunities that my professors gave me to network. But Second, as I mentioned earlier, I was working full-time on top of all of my classes for a good portion of my school experience, on top of all of my classes. And although that is not an experience that will affect everybody, it does affect a lot of people. This limits the amount of time that you have available to work on your classwork. And then, on top of that, both those things together severely limits the time you have left to attend networking events and to think about that. And forget about talking during class once you get too far. You're just trying to survive.
Yeah. Like the networking would have been great. And also I feel like they didn't really implement that many like networking events. Like for the most part, we were pretty like separate. Yeah, I was like, I cannot talk to the person next to me when I've been working on this project for like days on end and I still feel like I've gotten nowhere. Like there were so many times like in my free time that I was just like doing work nonstop. And also, I can't be talking to the person next to me while there's lectures going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not happening.
That clip was me talking with my one friend left from college. Her name is Leah. I met her in our freshman classes. I did have some other friends I met this year, but they all slowly disappeared over time. Some had different majors, others just left the school. I was lucky enough to be able to interview both Leah and my friend Ash for this video. They both went to my same university, but for very different art majors than my own, and I just wanted to be able to capture their experience as well. Hi friends, I love you. Thank you again. Next, I wanted to discuss the critiques that you do in class. For those that may not know, critiques are done periodically throughout the semester in college. Or it could be high school too, I don't know. I'm sorry I didn't do high school art classes. Don't come for me. I would often explain them when I was in school as our versions of exams. Unlike in other majors' exams though, in art critiques, the entire class puts up their piece and we take turns going around, giving feedback to every student and just getting everyone's opinions and things you could change and improve upon. Maybe it's more accurate to describe them as presentations. But they happen as often as like exams rather than, you have a presentation every once in a while. I don't know, however you want to do it. They can be really helpful tools if they're done correctly. And I had many, many teachers that said they missed being able to do them with their peers. And I believe them. I think they do miss it. I think that as artists, we all become blind to our own work and we just need that extra set of eyes to kind of point out what we're missing. I personally was not a big fan of critiques myself. I know this is something else that's affected by my shyness, okay? I dreaded having to speak in front of the group, both presenting my work and making sure that I got credit for giving feedback on other people's work was kind of terrifying sometimes. But on top of that issue, every single teacher would run their critiques differently, and there were many that I did not vibe with at all. And of course, those are the ones I remember. Get ready for a rant. I had one teacher that would set a timer for 15 minutes and for each individual student. And if you were not commenting on their piece, if there was no one talking, we would just sit there in silence for 15 minutes. And obviously, I'm not the only shy, introvert, doesn't like awkward silence person. So there were so many just kind of thrown in their comments to fill the silence that sure might be relevant, might be helpful, but also probably didn't actually need to get said. Like, oh, hey, this is kind of like that time that I was in this class and was doing this and I blah, 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 blah. Not relevant, but better than sitting in silence. And then in the complete opposite light, I had another teacher that would just kind of, I guess, go with the vibes, kind of hippie-like, and just talk about each piece however much time it took up. And there was one painting early on in the 3-hour studio time that he talked about for 20 minutes. And I don't think many other people said stuff during that time. Like, I know they did, but I think it was mostly him. And then later on in the day, it finally got to mine, and it was 2 minutes. And then he just awkwardly moved on. I'm still kind of petty about that to this day. Like, I kind of understand him more now, and I can't really blame him, because I didn't talk much in that class like I was supposed to. So I don't know, I think he just ran out of things to say. But it still felt really rude to just move on from me. Anyway, now I need to address the elephant in the room, COVID-19. Unfortunately, since my time in school was from 2017 to 2021, my experience was heavily affected by COVID.
We definitely got the short end of the stick. I think COVID definitely did not help. I feel like all of the chances where we should have networked during that time were taken away from us because of COVID.
And that's coming more and more clear, I think, as we get older, because I didn't
Oh,
mind at
for
the
sure.
time.
Yeah, it was, at the time I was like, well, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, damn, no, like that really would have been a helpful endeavor for me.
This changed our entire school experience. Everything we just talked about and beyond. We no longer went in for studio time. Many teachers didn't even have us get on Zoom for those days anymore. We just worked on our projects until critique and then hopped on. And critiques were the Wild West in Zoom classes. Some teachers did discussion boards. And then others had us turn our pieces into them beforehand, and they turned it into a PowerPoint. Some had us share our own screens. It was just all over the place on what we were going to be doing. And this changed how we all talked about the work. I mean, I don't even think I paid attention a good chunk of the time. I think that's safe to admit now. I've been graduated for 3 years. I didn't like critiques, and I was sitting in my room, sometimes on my bed, through a critique. And I'm sorry. You could forget about networking in Zoom classes. I don't know who was in there, and I have no idea what they're doing now. Finally, before we move on, I want to address the people who will say that this is our own fault for choosing these majors in the first place. Although it may be risky, people who are in creative fields are some of the most amazing, most passionate people you will ever meet. They put their entire soul into what they're doing. And I mean, that's why burnout can happen, but I just think there's something so beautiful about seeing someone love what they do. I don't like to see this used against anyone, even if you can say it's part of the issue. I think society's pressure to continue to push, even when you're down, is the real problem. Creativity can't flourish in stress. I do think we've covered my point of view enough, though, so it is time to move on to the experience of my friends. I always felt like they chose safer routes than I did, mostly due to some family influence, but when I asked them about it, they interestingly had very different opinions on the topic. The first question should be pretty easy. It's just talking about what your major was in school.
Well, it started off as interior design, but too much pressure and burnout caused me to change my degree to design management.
So your quote-unquote dream job was just interior design, or was it something more specific?
Yeah, my dream job at the time was to become an interior designer.
What was your major in school?
My degree was in Bachelor's of Arts and Education, and it was okay, I guess.
I feel like this one is a really easy one, considering your major. What was your dream job?
I don't know. My dream job, I felt like, was a bunch of different things. I just knew I really wanted to have something to do with art, because I feel like it changed a lot. I just wanted to be in a place where I can do art and have fun. I just wanted to have, like, some form of, like, creative outlet with it, I guess. I feel like I went from maybe wanting to be an artist and then kind of attaching other things with it, like be an artist but maybe like an art therapist, or maybe, and then I was like, oh, what if I was an art teacher too and stuff, because I was really influenced by one of my like art teachers, and then I was like, okay, I want to do that. That sounds like fun.
I like it. Because I feel like some people would shorten that answer to just, I wanted to be an art teacher and just move on. But I think that that's a much more natural way to look at the events of choosing your lifetime career. The next question was, do you consider the route that you took to be, quote, traditional or safe?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
No. I feel like in some ways I did it to myself, because like there is that risk when you go into a creative field, right? Like there is that risk that you're just like not going to make it. And so I was fully prepared that it would be the most secure job. I was fully prepared of the pitfalls that I could potentially go into and that I inevitably did. I even like the major that I changed, I don't even think that it's necessarily a traditional or safe job. Like, yeah, it has management in the name, but at that point it was like still mostly design stuff. It was like 80% design, 20% management. Whereas like if I did a full degree in management, I could have done a lot more. Not a lot of people really know what design management is. And I think you still have to, I feel like for my degree to have been like genuinely helpful, I would have still needed to like succeed in getting into the program that I did and like getting that interior design degree that I did. It very much, my degree literally felt like a consolation prize. Not gonna lie. I was like, that's awesome. And so
wow, thanks.
wow, so cool. They're like, you didn't get in, And so you didn't get into the program, but you have this route. You have design management as an option. And I was like, very cool, very sick.
Sounds like a good way
So
to not feel like I wasted my money here.
very, yeah, I was like, what a good use of $60,000.
Mm-hmm.
Highly enjoy that. Yeah, I wouldn't say I chose a traditional or safe route. I think the fact that I have management in my degree name
Mm-hmm.
has helped me going further, but I don't know. Like as soon as and I feel like this goes for any like degree now.
Yeah.
Like no matter what you really have your degree in, like for the most part, it's kind of just like, wow, that's awesome. You have your degree, but like what experience do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Like it just very much feels like a entry piece of paper that everyone else has now.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help you stand out in any way, shape, or form. And it kind of just feels like you spent all that money just to be at square one, just like everyone else.
Would you consider the route that you ended up taking in art school to be, quote, traditional or safe route compared to some of the others, like mine, maybe?
I feel like it probably did take like a safe route or like traditional route and stuff like that in terms of like being an artist in my career. I feel like it's still just annoying as fuck though.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Because I wasted not wasted. I just feel like, I took some of these like classes because, this was what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to do this with my art and with my career and stuff, like use it to like teach like people and kids. But it's so annoying because I just feel like it wasn't what it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I didn't get what I really needed in order to be successful in my career.
Hearing their stories, I realized how biased or skewed your perspective can be when you're actually in the middle of it all. Safer or more socially acceptable doesn't save the other art majors from the same pitfalls that I went through. So it shouldn't be a surprise that they went through burnout as well.
How was your school experience?
Goofy. It was fucking goofy. No, it just felt goofy. Even just the first classes that we took, like in art, right? There were people that were going to our school solely for being artists, and I did not. That was not like the realm that I was in. I was like, oh, I was fully like prepared to like do interior design. They're like, no, you need to paint properly. You need to give me Mona Lisa and do it now. Also, you're paying $20,000, and you will fail if you don't do it. And on top of that, you're going up against people that have been painting their entire life, and this is part of your curriculum. Is this like expected you in the field? Maybe, maybe not. The skills are arguably transferable, but I was like, I feel like this is not the kind of, I don't know. I feel like I wish they put me in a different class that was less intense, because like there were people that had their majors in painting and drawing that I was up against, and I was like, this is not in my element. Like I had to spend hours after school, like up until midnight in the studio doing like drawing and still lifes that I was like, I don't see how this is fully pertaining to my degree. I don't know. It caused a lot of stress. And granted, I was able to get through it, but like I think those first 2 years was just so stressful. And then having to go up against everyone else too for the program because there was only so many spots because it was a very highly competitive program, and I was like already at my wits end. Like I remember when I turned in like my program assignment to see if I would get into it or not, I did not sleep for 3 days.
Oh yeah.
And I took the last 3 hours before the deadline. I took a nap and I was like, oh, I'll take 1 20-minute nap. And I woke up and it had been 2 hours and I had 1 hour left. And so I was freaking out and scrambling, getting everything together. And I mean, I did make the deadline, but I don't know. At that point, it was just such a blur. Like, I was so burnt out. I was so tired. I had nothing left in me. And then for them to be like, hey, so you actually did not get into the program. I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not spending another $20,000 to do this. Like I'm good. I'll just change my degree. The classes that they put us in were not as helpful because the level in which they put us in was so intense and really was not needed for my degree. I needed more courses that were really pertinent to my degree more than anything. Like I would have loved a technical drawing class for my interior design sketches. That would have been immensely helpful. So all of that got like bundled up into one course, one semester course. And then they're like, okay, time to apply for your program. And it's like, what? Help, please, no.
How was your school experience?
I had a decent school experience. I feel like I've learned a lot from it. I feel like, even though it was kind of like poopy, like I feel like I wasn't like prepared in some ways. Mm-hmm. Like the scaffolding to help me wasn't always there. Mm-hmm. But the time that I did get like teachers and professors that like, you know, would meet me where I was at, I like really liked it. There were some times where I feel like it was like in Step Brothers, like, you know, where like one of the Step Brothers goes, "This is a prison!" Like that. Like that's what I felt like. I just felt like, boom, here's a project. Okay, here's another project. You kind of suck at this. Like I just felt like there were the parts where I felt like I wasn't actually like learning were really frustrating and a waste of my time.
Mm-hmm. You just feel like a robot going through the motions.
Yeah, sometimes.
It sometimes feels like maybe they weren't focusing on the exact thing that you would need, or...
Yes!
When me and Leah were talking about studio classes, we were talking about how we felt like we were going into the class to learn how to do the thing, and sometimes it felt like the professors were expecting us to already know the basics, and we were just struggling to catch up to the point that they expected us to already be at.
Yeah, dude, I totally agree. And girl, that's just on bad teaching, because like... the big things that you should do for your students, regardless of if it's college level or like younger, is scaffold for your fucking students. You shouldn't just expect everyone to just already know what you should be doing. If like, sure, they already do, sick, great. But if they don't, it's literally your job as a teacher to try and help them.
Yes.
I got in there and I didn't really know too much about oil paints, or I hadn't pushed my art in a way that they were pushing my art before. I was just like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the times I was doing it for the sake of the teacher. Like, and it didn't really like feel like me. I was like, okay, I'm doing like learn, but felt about it all, you know?
Yeah.
I wasn't being like helped. And I felt like I flatlined. Like I wasn't really getting, and I wasn't enjoying myself a lot of the times. I felt like I was only doing art for school's sake, and I wasn't applying it in my personal life. I can't do that because I love art, then what's the point, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if it makes it any better, but I think it's that kind of universal experience that made me intrigued to look into making this video in the first place, because did I tell you about the TikTok I found that inspired this whole idea?
No.
She posts a bunch of images from her sketchbook before, during, and after she went to college, and it just slowly goes completely downhill, where it's just, there's nothing and scribbles by the end of it, and she's just done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the fact that this is universal, because you go in the comments, and me and a bunch of other people are like, yeah, same.
We're in this together.
I was like, I want to know what caused this in the, like, overall. And I feel like a part of it is, like, we get so used to, we have an assignment, we do the assignment in this amount of time in a way the professor would like, and then all of a sudden it's just, well, now I have to come up with it on my own, and what do I like? Who am I? Like...
Literally, like, that whole, like, crisis, like... I went to art school and I came out with identity crisis.
Yes.
That's what I got. Fucking imposter
I got my
syndrome.
degree in identity crisis.
Damn, yeah. Retweet.
It says, do you consider yourself burned out or previously burned out? Do you think this is related to your time in school?
Yes.
Yes.
I was burned out. College made me burned out. It was 1,000% related to school. 1,000,000%. Like, I feel like an internship, or like especially an apprenticeship, would have helped way more than now. And I mean, like, if I so wanted to, right? Because like, you're never too old to start learning again, right? And to like try new things. But I think I've been so burnt out. That experience just rubbed me the wrong way so intensely that I would not want to go through that again. It was a lot. Yeah, it was just a really stressful, just like seeing something that you had so much like love and passion for, like to have it just like tainted with those experiences that like make you not want to like pursue it as intensely. It's just, it's sad, you know, like it sucks. I know that there's a bunch of people like, oh, like, you know, if you're not like doing it now, then I guess like you didn't really love it enough or you didn't try hard enough. And it's like, no, I worked my ass off. I tried too hard. I gave it my all, and it was just like it just strained me so much that I just did not want to do that again. Like, I still love interior design. It's still a passion of mine, but it's something that I do in my personal time now, rather than professionally. And I feel like when you are someone who is creative, you're not just going to be creative in one field, right? So I know now that there is another field in the creative field that I like, and that's like the culinary arts. I enjoy that a lot. And I know for sure now that whatever route that I do choose to go to make that a career, it's going to be an untraditional one, because I feel like that would benefit me way more. And I think it would give me the experience and the knowledge and the preparedness to go up against some of those more intense challenges and those pitfalls that do come with being in a creative field. I felt so immensely unprepared to deal with them. And when they came, it just like, it hit me hard and it burnt me out, and it took so much for me. So I feel like if I chose a different avenue, that I would feel a lot better with it. Like, I feel way more prepared going into the culinary field than I do now, right? Like, I've hosted like charcuterie classes, I've like helped friends cook, I've made networks and connections. I know of all the potential pitfalls that go with it, but I feel way more prepared than I ever did going into a field of interior design, because of those untraditional avenues that gave me the experience that I needed and that knowledge that I needed to really push through and give me the thick skin and the knowledge that you need to do well in a creative field. Like, you need that to do well in a creative field. It's not an easy field.
Do you consider yourself burned out or previously burned out? Do you think this is related to your time in school?
I definitely feel burned out. I feel less burned out than I have before, though. I feel like the transition from college to like where I am now has been a lot, and I definitely feel like it burned me out. I feel like it's been a lot harder to do art myself now because of my school experience with art.
It used up everything that you did have, and you're just trying to find it again.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it again. I was previously burned out from when I graduated from college. It definitely affected me in my career, like really bad. But now I feel like I'm getting over it, which is really nice. It took a lot to get there, and it was not a fun time coming out from the burnout. And I still feel burned out, and I still haven't like been able to do stuff like to what I would like to in terms of my art. And I feel like it's definitely a part of how I feel like going to art school is definitely a part of it. Like, it for sure.
They felt like the foundation that was given to them by the school wasn't strong enough for the pressure that they felt was put on them. As a result, the energy they put in wasn't returned back to them, and they just felt like their soul was drained. This was especially compacted by experiences in high school.
Did you do anything in high school that you think could have contributed to the burnout that you experienced from college?
In high school, because like I'm very used to academic pressure, right? Like, I went to a magnet program. I strived very hard to get in the top 10% of my class, and like doing all these AP courses and getting a 4.0 and like all these extracurriculars, so that way I could get into whatever college I wanted to, right? So I mean, there was that pressure, but the level of burnout that I experienced from college was on like a completely different level than the burnouts that I would get in high school, I would say. And honestly, like, when I was in high school, like the creative classes that I took and like the art classes that I took there, I felt were a lot more helpful for me and like grasping the creative. Like, it inspired me and taught me at the same time, rather than draining me but giving me knowledge. Like, they both gave me knowledge, but one was way more draining. One was way more soul sucking.
Do you think anything that you did in high school also contributed to this?
Yes. Yes. Because my art experience in high school, I was really proud of some of the stuff that I did. I feel like in every phase, I have learned and grabbed something from it, whether it's in high school or college, and then now out of college, I feel like there's stuff that I've learned and grabbed and stuff like that. I feel like my art education experience, high school and whatever, it was like also a little similar, and where I feel like I was just popping out projects for project's sake. Oh my gosh, that was projects for project sake. Little tongue twister for you. And I feel like I was already a little burnt out and still not knowing who I was as an artist, just knowing that I liked to do art.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, then I guess I'll just keep on going.
Yeah.
And stuff. We had to make like portfolios, and it was very different from how they make portfolios now, because I've like student taught in a high school or in a high school setting, and I saw what they're making portfolio terms and how that teacher was handling it. And I loved my high school art teacher. There are some things that I did not agree with her at all. And I do love her, and I feel like I've learned something from her. I feel like I could have had a bit more. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that it's all her fault. I feel like definitely it was the school that we went to and how they treated the arts. So I'm not saying it's 100% her fault. I definitely feel like that is a big contributor. But I student taught in other schools, and I looked at those art teachers and I was like, damn, I wish I had you. But I feel like there hasn't been a phase in my art career and my art, like no matter what phase it was, like earlier ages and like high school and college, there has yet to be one where I felt 100% into my art.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, I just feel like,
It's like you were just making stuff for the machine for 10 years?
Yes and no. I feel like there's somewhere I was making it for the machine, and there's somewhere I'm like, that was fun, that was cool, I like that. But definitely in high school and college, I'm making my art for the machine, you know? And I just feel envious because I look at people who, they were going through this and they were doing it, but they just seem so sure of themselves.
Yeah.
And so, like, their art just always turned out so, like, amazing to me. And I feel like I just haven't experienced that in myself yet. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what put me on this rant, but that's how I feel about that. But no, I definitely feel like my high school career in terms of art just kind of burned me out too. And I went to college, felt more burned out. And then I got out of college and I'm like, girl, I'm tired.
Yeah, you've been doing it so long. And in high school, you seemed like you were going gray hairs.
You'd see me lugging around my portfolio and I'm like, my back hurts.
While Leah felt safer and like she learned more at the high school levels, Ashlyn's stress started in her AP art classes. I think this affected their college careers a lot. Leah wasn't necessarily ready for the lack of beginner levels, and although Ash was used to the stress, the continued pressure didn't do her a lot of favors. Hearing their stories is what convinces me that this is a widespread issue. All three of us are willing to admit to our own downfalls in school. If my experience was an isolated one, I would entirely believe that it was my own fault due to shyness or whatever it may be. When you factor in Leah and Ash's stories, it just shows that there's something else going on entirely. How can a school create strong and confident future artists and employees of the future if they don't feel supported by the classes that they are provided? When you leave school just feeling crushed, you just get drowned in the sea of dreamers. It's easy to be misled that you can recover from these habits after graduation when you no longer have the classes or the due dates. But nowadays we are expected to be on social media and create a following for our art on top of surviving in today's economy. As I talked about previously, there is a pressure to put yourself out there as soon as and as often as possible. If you don't use social media these days, then you won't get found. Unlike, I had one guest artist at school that I asked for advice on social media, and she told me you don't need to be on social media, and I feel like that is just completely inaccurate today's time. There may be people here or there that can make it without social media, but I don't think that's the majority, and I think it is entirely inaccurate to go speak at a college and be telling young people this, because I just don't think that's true. Even established music artists have to promote themselves on TikTok. They are forced to by their labels. And if Halsey has to promote on TikTok, then me and everyone who nobody knows has to promote on TikTok or whatever social media you choose to.
I use a lot of them. And this isn't scripted, but I bet that she could argue that that's what you're in school for, is to meet people in the networking and to find your network and your audience and your people without social media. But as we've gone over earlier in this video, that isn't usually how it goes. And even then, even if you find friends that will support you at school, I just don't think that would support what is needed in order to make a living or become known for your art, to get the backing that you need. I just think it is a lot more complicated than that in today's atmosphere, unfortunately. Back on track. While there are no deadlines officially on social media, you do have to keep up with holidays, trends, anything that your specific following ends up enjoying. And honestly, I'm not sure that's too much better, because you will always be rushing to finish your Christmas art before Christmas and your Valentine's Day art before Valentine's Day, so on and so forth. Keeping an eye on that outside of a 9-to-5 job, a social life, other hobbies, chores, self-care. I've lost my fingers. The point is, it can be impossible, okay? Throw in a lack of a dedicated studio space in most cases, and it's just going to be a disaster. It's not going to work. You need energy, space, and time to be successful. And all three have been taken from artists attempting to make it. I can hear someone typing right now. But that's why the term starving artist exists. Okay, does that make it okay to devalue someone's passion and potential livelihood? There are many people who are able to pull themselves up by the bootstraps and get everything done, but that's okay if it's not you. It is definitely not me. And I wouldn't be surprised if the same people that are able to pull themselves up and do that are secretly just extremely burned out as well. Those who chase the algorithm may have a day job, friends, family, a content schedule, marketing, last-minute trend posts, comment, reposts, and more. If they're really good with keeping up with the social media trends, they may never make anything that they actually like. They just make what trends and what gets views and likes, follows, all the things. If they happen to be a recent graduate like my friends and I'm not sure how they wouldn't break under the pressure of that, if not now, eventually. And those of us that have graduated in the past 5 years that can relate to my story, a lot of us are considered lazy or selfish for taking a lot of time for ourselves, but we just don't want this burnout to just take over our lives, jobs to take over our lives. We want to be able to appreciate the life that we have. Something I've been thinking about related to this as well is the saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I feel like this is something that at least us Americans strive for, but then tend to kind of backpedal whenever it comes to creative work, which is something that is a lot of work and actually has a lot of critics that will go off on you if they don't like it. I just think it is something that we should be thinking about. If the American dream is to do something that you love, why are we fighting so hard against the people that are trying to do just that? Why are we allowing them to be in an environment where they just get burned out? Additionally, burnout is a long-term issue. You'd think you could just take a break and come back better, but unfortunately that's just not the case. It can take a long time to recover from burnout. An article from Cleveland Clinic, which I have linked below for anyone interested, defines burnout as having 3 symptoms: a lack of energy or exhaustion.
Like, I remember when I turned in my program assignment to see if I would get into it or not, I did not sleep for 3 days.
Feelings of negativity or cynicism.
I feel like it probably did take a safe route or traditional route and stuff like that in terms of being an artist in my career. I feel like it's still just annoying as fuck though.
And poor performance. As a result of all this, I didn't feel like I had any connection to any of my work at that point in time. I don't have a portfolio that I'm proud of. All of which I believe have been brought up by me and my friends as part of our personal experiences. It also states that it can take a few months to a few years to recover, even with the helpful advice that's included in the article, which you can check out if you are currently struggling with these things. In this instance in particular, we are talking about creative burnout, which is especially difficult to recover from in a society that doesn't feel like it nurtures creativity on a daily basis. It can take a lot of change and a big effort to fully recover. All three of us are currently in different levels of recovery from our burnout. Ash feels that she's only recently trying to recover from this, but she's actually having a lot of fun just trying to discover her own art identity for herself by purposely creating time to create for herself, not for somebody else. Leah, although she loves interior design, has branched her creativity out to something else, something she doesn't have that past burnout with, and she is happy and inspired. Personally, I had to take a huge step back from social media and just slow down. I had a goal at the beginning of this year to take 6 weeks to make one piece. The logic behind this was to force myself to slow down and actually take the time to fix anything that I didn't like, and to take the feeling that I need to post it soon out of the equation. And that project really got my brain moving again. I ended up buying a sketchbook for the first time in years and finishing it, which is insane. It's just completely huge for me. I felt my inspiration coming back in waves, just huge waves. And for once, it was more than fan art. It was everything I was passionate about. And for some graduates, this process can feel impossible. It can feel stifling. It can feel out of the question just due to their lifestyle and energy levels, and that results in some people just never recovering. Anyone who is not as familiar with the art world, I can definitely hear you asking, okay, that sucks, but why should I care? You need to care. Everything that you see has been touched by a creative. You don't believe me? Just think about my friends' majors for a second. Interior design and art education. Every pretty building and every school has been touched by their professions. The art you see around town was commissioned by fellow citizens, and that art was done by someone who has a painting or sculpture degree. Your favorite shows, books, movies, games, all have writers, artists, and animators that wouldn't be there without art school. And if the school is burning them out before they can make your comfort show, where does that leave you? Unable to wind down after your own job. We also have to keep in mind that creatives are always inspiring each other. What I mean by that is, reading a book might inspire Taylor Swift to write a song, which could inspire someone's art piece, and that could inspire a movie or TV show. Everyone likes to be entertained, and everyone has a creative bone in their body. And whenever we limit creatives, whether it's burnout or otherwise, we are limiting our own access to these things and access to our own creations. Art and creatives are an invisible necessity. Between burnout from all of this, competition, and fucking AI, we may lose this. We need to create more spaces where artists feel like they can slow down and really truly think for themselves. Or if they continue to be in a fast-paced environment, we need to give them the resources that they need and teach them how to recover from burnout. As me and my friends talked about, the foundation that you receive in school, or even teaching yourself, is what will determine how your future career goes. If your foundation is flimsy and not ready for how quickly it will need to be built on, it will collapse. Burnout is inevitable in that case. But if you are given the proper tools, you can prosper even with challenges. Okay, so we've got over a lot in this video. We had the original TikTok, my own experiences, my friends' experiences, even some other things I threw in there. And we've heard about the loss of creativity that a lot of graduates are having. And although that may be real life, that may be realistic, we wanted to make sure that you know that not all hope is lost.
I feel like society tells you, it tells you the pipeline to get to what you want, right? On like how to get your dream job. You work hard, go to school, go to college, get your degree, get your job, get your experience, get your dream job, right? That's not really the case anymore. It's more like you work hard, you go to college, you get your degree, you work hard, the degree does not do much, and you have to like figure it out all over again. Trade schools, technical schools, I think that's worth the money. And on top of that, it is not nearly as expensive as a traditional college, and it'll take you a lot farther to really get the skills and the knowledge that you want, depending on whatever field you're going into. Like, if you're gonna go to school, I think that's the best route to go about it. I really do think that if you are gonna be in a creative field, you would do much better with putting in that effort to work on your creative expression, right? And your style. But all, like do all of that. Make your portfolio on your own, but also network like you have never believed. Look for apprenticeships, look for internships, something with a hands-on experience, something where you will be in an environment that's already like in the field doing exactly what you want. No like other like fluff, you know? Like you're there, you're on the ground floor with people that are doing what you want to do. That will give you an in to the job that you want to do. That will give you the experience, it'll give you the knowledge, it'll give you the expectations to do what you want. It'll give you that good foundation to actually pursue what you want to creatively.
I would say listen to yourself and listen to your professors, but take everything anyone ever says with a grain of salt. Which I feel like is one of the most basic sayings. But just, if you go, I hope you have a fun time. Do stuff that intrigues you. Find something in whatever you have to do while you're there that intrigues you. And if you are feeling like this sucks, that's okay. That's okay. Maybe just, kind of sit on it for a little bit. You don't have to spend a crap ton of money on some things. Definitely do some research so you don't have, because it's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive, as school usually is. Just do some homework, find some cool people, think about who you want to be as an artist and what you want to do. And if you take a class that you don't like, then when you're no longer in that class, you don't have to do that anymore. So it's only temporary. Honestly, anything can be a fun time if you want. And if it's not, oh well, drop the class, find something else. It is not that deep for you to, hate yourself or go through some crisis, you know what I mean? Go. If it's not for you, school will always freaking be there.
In the end, it will all depend on you and your circumstances. If you have a strong network and the strong art practice already, then you could just start a page online and get to posting without going into school debt. If you are missing either of these things, you may want to consider art school as one of your options. But as Leah pointed out, you don't have to stick to that. If you have something specific you want to do, you can see about internships or apprenticeships near you. You can also just take a year or two to make what you love and see what comes of it. As long as you like what you're putting out there, your audience will find you. I always thought that advice was dumb, but lately I've been seeing it in a different light. Stuff I make simply because I want to seems to do well, and I'm much more proud of it. Everyone can see if you are being real to yourself, and I 100% believe in that. What I'm trying to get at is do what feels right for you, and you'll end up where you need to be. None of us regret going to school, even though it affected us in the way we spoke about in the video. We met people we love, learned lessons, and experienced new things. If that sounds right for you, then go for it. If you think you are at a high risk of being burned out, then try a different route. That's such a long-winded way to say trust your gut. But I do mean it. I mean it. Thank you all so much for sticking with me through this entire video. It definitely means more than you know. I've been working on this for a long time. Let's confuse anyone else who's watching the video that hasn't made it to the end. Let's put a word in the comments. Let's put Chopper in the comments if you see this and you want to. You could also like and subscribe to let me know that you did enjoy this type of content. I will be back soon with more. Until then, you can still see what I'm up to on all of my other socials. Bye!